We're just trying to.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will call February 24th, 2026 Board of County Commission meeting to order. Please note that Commissioner Adams is absent today. She is representing the county in Washington, D.C., and we do appreciate that. We will start this morning with the invocation by Mr. Dale Gladding of Risk Takers for Christ, and prior to that, we will show our respect, a moment of silence for first responders and law enforcement. Following the invocation, Commissioner Fletcher will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Thank you, sir. Father God, the scripture reminds us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so, Lord, because our commissioners need wisdom to govern us rightly and fairly and justly, we pray that you would give them a supernatural and a reverential fear of the Lord. Father God, we just pray that you would bless them as they seek to serve you by serving us. And we ask this all in the name of our risen Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the greatest nation on earth, the United States of America, home of the free because of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
At this time, Commissioners, we will entertain any additions or deletions to the agenda. Mr. Administrator, do you have any additions or deletions?
Consent, we have no delete. We just want to pull 9L for discussion.
9L for discussion. Commissioners, any others?
Off the agenda?
No.
Or just discussion?
For discussion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fletcher, second by Vice Chair Moss. Any further discussions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. And the motion carries unanimously. Our next item of discussion will be proclamations and presentations honoring Black History Month. This morning, Commissioner Fletcher will present a proclamation recognizing two of our pioneers, Calvin Coach Cal Moment, as well as Keith J.K. Woolard. Commissioner Fletcher, welcome.
Coaches, come on up. Love to see you at the podium. I know it's not a field. I know there's not too many youth here today, but I want you to know it's a great privilege and honor to be able to present the both of you with a proclamation. You know, I believe that, Calvin, we've had some turns in the process and some challenges, and you have overcome those challenges. Both of you putting youth at the forefront. It's cool to be a coach, but I think it's a lot more than just knowing the game, knowing the sport, and guiding them through the sport. The nurturing that you provide, the transportation you provide, getting them on the field, and doing all you do. And again, there were coaches before you. And yes, we have acknowledged them. But I believe that the both of you have been coaches during some challenging times, okay? And you got through it. And you're to be commended, putting youth first. That's the importance of the game, not the game, right? Thank you. I'd like to start with presenting this proclamation for recognizing African-American pioneers Calvin, Coach Cal moment, and Keith J.K. Woolard. Whereas African American Pioneer Month is an opportunity to recognize individuals whose leadership, service, and perseverance have strengthened Indian River County and positively shaped the future generations. And whereas Calvin Coach Cal Moment is a proud resident of Indian River, devoted to and a devoted husband for 26 years and a father of 4, founded in the Vero Beach Foundation Gators in 2017, and now known as the Vero Beach Foundation Indians for Football and Cheer Corporation, creating a youth program rooted in character, discipline, mentorship, and the purpose, while partnering with the community and the school leaders to help develop the responsible young men on and off the field. Whereas Coach Keith J.K. Woolard, a lifelong member of the Vero Beach community, has devoted husband and a father of 5, founding Indian River Elite, IRE, the track club, in 2011, and to provide young athletes with strong fundamentals and a national level of opportunities for producing AAU All-Americans, national champions, and collegiate athletes while serving as a lasting mentor and positive influence. Whereas through the athletics, the mentorship, and unwavering commitment to the youth development with both Coach Moment and Coach Woolard have demonstrated exemplary leadership and have made a profound and lasting impact on the lives of countless families in our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that African American Pioneers Month is hereby recognized, and Calvin, Coach Cal Moment, and Keith J.K. Woolard are honored as exemplary community pioneers whose service, the mentorship, and dedication continue to strengthen in Indian River County. Duly adopted this 24th day of February 2026, and it is signed by all 5 county commissioners. Gentlemen, we have a proclamation for each of you, although we included you in, both of you in the proclamation. Coach.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Coach.
Thank you so much.
You know, Commissioner Fletcher was a coach in and of himself through the years in his previous career. We have Captain Ehrman, who also is a certified umpire in baseball, softball, and the like. But I will tell you that through our lives, we may forget our science teacher and home ec teacher, but we never forget our coaches. And I can vividly remember all of the coaches that I've had, you know, whether it be counseling the youngsters or dealing with some frustrated parents at times through grace and grief, or whichever that we deal with. And for that, we say thank you. With folks like you, we wouldn't have the community that we have. So I say thank you. Commissioner Moss.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and thank you very much for the work you've done in our community.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you can do a lot of things in life, but when you're a coach, it's a calling. It's just something within you that you do because you love doing it, whether it's no matter what sport or whatever it is, it's just a calling to be a coach. And it's a service to your community, it's a service to the Almighty, and it's a service, especially a service to the kids to make them better. Because like Commissioner Lohr, that was very well put. He's right, you may not remember your science teacher, but you'll remember your coach for the rest of your life. Great job.
Yep. And you see those youngsters throughout the community coming up to you, and calling you coach, and it's a great feeling.
Gentlemen, that's exactly the point I wanted to make. You know, we've seen you on the field, and you're doing what you need to do. But the more important thing is when you're just in the community, maybe by the parade or maybe in a store, when you see the youth attached to you and connect even 5 years after you've mentored them as a coach, that's what it's all about. Thank you for being great role models.
Come on up, gentlemen, thank you.
You get your picture.
Now, coaches, you probably want to hold your proclamation. Want to bring up a crowd? Is that, well, we could take 2 pictures.
Coach Calvin, over here, over here. Who are you wearing? How have you done it for so long?
Anybody want to take a picture with the coach?
They'll slide in. Come over
Well,
here.
you got to
fellas.
slide over here. You're never going to be in a picture over there, coach.
Everybody kind of squish in.
Might as well be down
I know.
You can tell.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, that brings us to the request for the approval of the January 13th, 2026 minutes.
Move approval.
We have a motion, I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Commissioners, that brings us to informational items from our staff and items not needing board approval. I will bring to your attention 7A and 7B, which are both significant and somewhat of a milestone in our county. Many of you obviously know about the ELAP bond funding from November of 2022. This is the historic day, and this is the first of the 2 properties that we have finally got to the point where they will be procured. So any questions about 7A or 7B? That would be the Jungle Trail Island Club as well as Osprey Estates. All right. That brings us to public comment for members of our public. Anything that is agenda-related, you'd be happy to speak on. That is agenda-related. That would be anything on the agenda. And if you have something outside of what's on the agenda, we will entertain that at the close of the meeting. Good morning, sir. Name and address for the record.
William McCaslin, representing Vallejo and VLE. We'd just like to thank you for considering bringing in the new temporary fire station. So it's a needed object that we do need, and we cannot go without it because we're growing astronomically. So we appreciate you taking the time to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Commissioners, that brings us to the consent agenda. With the exception of 9L, another opportunity was, is there anything anyone would like pulled for discussion? Hearing none, we will entertain 9L. Mr. Administrator.
You want to vote on the consent agenda first, absent that?
Yes, we will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, move approval as amended.
As amended, we have a motion and we have a second. As amended with the exception of 9L. All in favor? Aye. And the motion carries. Mr. Administrator, let's try it.
This is mainly just informational. I know I spoke with each member and the Hampton Park PD phase, and we talked about the timing and how they were, while they were near completion of the improvements, they are seeking the additional year for the purposes of being able to complete some of the improvements after the homes have been constructed, because they've had, is my understanding, they've had issues before that they damaged some of the stuff that they have put in, so they want to complete the final improvements after the homes are constructed. Is that, and I think Deputy County Attorney Susan Prada has worked with them.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Susan Prado. Yes, that is correct. Their complaint, I guess, is some of the curbing. There are some cracks that happen in the curbing as they're constructing the homes. It becomes damaged. Because in this particular phase, it's my understanding, because they haven't begun constructing homes, they're afraid of the curbing becoming damaged. Therefore, they're asking for an extension to complete this, because under our code, the curbing is one of the required improvements. So this is an item that an extension does require board approval at this time. And so that's why we're here today, to ask if they can have an extension for another 12 months so that they can complete that at a little bit of later date. And we also have, and I just got picked up this morning, dropped off to my office, was the new letter of credit and the executed agreement from the developer. So that was dropped off, hand delivered just this morning from them.
Does that offer any further comfort to you, Mr. Administrator?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. So staff would continue to recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fletcher, a second by Commissioner Urban. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and the motion carries. Commissioners, that brings us now to public hearings. Item 11A1, as we have no constitutionals present today. This is the application of Operating Assistance Section 5307 from the Federal Transit Administration. I see with us this morning is Mr. Brian Freeman. Welcome.
Good morning, Commission. Brian Freeman, MPO Staff Director. And this is an application for Section 5307, Federal Transit Funding Assistance for Operating Assistance. The Section 5307 program, or Urban Area Formula Program, is the single largest funding source for the county's public transportation system, which consists of the GO Line and Community Coach. There were some leftover funds from fiscal year 2021 that were not used by other Florida transit systems, and a portion of those funds were made available to us. And in order to obtain those funds, we need to conduct this public hearing and then complete the application process. And the amount of the funding is $712,014.
That's a Christmas gift a little late, Mr. Freeman.
Take
We'll
it
take
anytime.
It's free money, sir.
We'll take it. Commissioner Urban.
Make motion to approve.
Well, no,
We have to open,
Oh, it's a public hearing.
right, it is a public hearing. At this time, we'll
early warning.
open this hearing for public comment about our transportation windfall. And we'll close the public hearing.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Urban. And a second by Commissioner Fletcher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Commissioner, the next item is 11A2 on the agenda. This is a request from Hires Properties LLC to rezone approximately 18.08 acres from A1 to R3, single family. The parties to this proceeding are Indian River County and Hires Property LLC, which is the applicant. At this time, we will ask General Counsel for some comments.
Yes, I wanted to introduce this matter. This matter was considered by the Board of County Commissioners on January 13th. The board held a full quasi-judicial hearing and voted 4-1 to approve this rezoning. But we realized after the hearing that the actual adopting ordinance, which is necessary for the rezoning, was inadvertently omitted from the agenda packet, so it was not technically and formally included as part of the record for the hearing. Based on this, I recommend that the board reopen the January 13th public hearing, ask the clerk to swear in any witnesses who intend to speak, allow staff to present the ordinance and offer it as additional evidence, and accept public comment on the ordinance.
Okay. This time, we will reopen the public hearing. We'll ask the clerk to swear in any witnesses who expect to speak.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, we will start with a presentation by staff, and yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, just a moment then, and to clarify with the attorney, this is a continuance,
Yes.
so do we have to swear as well?
I do think that you made ex parte disclosures and addressed those matters in the first public hearing at the beginning.
So that would just continue?
Yes, so
on as
we're,
well.
we're kind
I
of
just wanna make sure
reopening
that's-
at the point where we would have,
Just to check and.
yes, I
ensure that we
appreciate
were
that. Thank
Legally
you,
sufficient.
Commissioner.
appreciate that.
I know it's a little bit confusing.
Thank you.
So Commissioners, to briefly summarize, this will be the third opportunity that we've heard this. This is being reheard because the ordinance was not part of the initial package. All of the facts remain the same, and this is a process that we're going through. We have Mr. Murphy here, I see Mr. Stoll, Mr. Sweeney. So with that, we will take a presentation by our staff.
Good morning, members of the board. Patrick Murphy, Chief of Long Range Planning. As was stated earlier by the county attorney, this presentation was originally made on January 13th. There's nothing really new in the presentation. All the material is the same. The property is the same. The request is the same. Just to kind of go through it really briefly. This property is located on the south side of 18th Street, 8th Street. Includes 18 acres. It's in the urban service boundary. The property is zoned A1. They are looking to rezone this to RS3 in order to build a conventional single-family residential subdivision. Staff has conducted a full analysis and believes this is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and it meshes well with the existing development pattern that is along this road. At this time, since we already had a full presentation on this, I'm really here to answer any questions you may have in addition. This is really, in my opinion, more of a formality since we didn't have the ordinance the last time, but there's really nothing new in this request than we had last month when we heard this. So really, I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have that maybe you didn't have on the last hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Commissioners, this is, as mentioned before, come before us twice, and we have had similar cases as the Hires property. This time, we will accept any comments from the public. If you have any comments specific to this project, please come forward. Let the record reflect we've given ample time for that. Do we have any closing comments by staff?
No, sir. This was approved 4-1 at the last hearing. Staff believes this is a good change in zoning. If you recall, this was a project that originally came before the board as a PD and was not approved. Recommendation by staff at that time was to go with an RS3, 3 units per acre. They are going to be developing a subdivision with around 2.2 units per acre, so it's a very low-dense residential development. It's consistent with the development pattern in this area. We have no further except to recommend approval.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner.
The minutes for that meeting, January 13th, say that the vote was 5-0. So I wasn't sure it was 4-1 in the memorandum. But there's no video posted, so I wasn't able to check it. I was trying to remember, because usually if it's 4-1, I'm the one. And I didn't think I had voted against this particular one. So it's in the minutes. on page 13.
Okay.
It says 5-0. We can check the video when it becomes available. I didn't see the video posted.
Okay, any further comments by the commissioners? Does the clerk have any additional information that she may need? Record reflect the clerk has what she needs. Does the, and I don't see the applicant here, does anyone from the applicant have anything? Have they electronically sent anything, Patrick, that you know of?
We reached out to the applicant's representative, and he said he would attend. Was expecting him to be here, but I do not see him.
Hi, Liz Diaz with Mill Short and Associates. I'm representing the applicant. If y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further final information from staff?
No, sir.
All documents are secure, tangible evidence has been admitted into evidence. All of those items have been secured a time or two already. This will close the public meeting. Commissioners, what's your flavor?
Mr. Chair, move approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion by Commissioner Fletcher and a second by myself. Any further discussion from the commissioners? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? With Commissioner Adams being absent. Commissioners, next item is 11A3, also legislative in nature, the final adoption of the 2025 Indian River County Comprehensive Plan Evaluation and Appraisal Report, also known as the EAR, sometimes referred to as EAR, based on the amendments and the direction that we were given. Good morning, Mr. Murphy.
Good morning again. As the previous case, this was also heard in January, and it was inadvertently left out, the ordinance, so we're bringing this back so that this can become the actual final adoption hearing for the EAR amendments. This is, can you switch over to, oh, thank you. This is 2 years in the making. This has been a long process, involved a lot of staff, a lot of departments, with our consultant working closely with the county administrator, the county attorney's office. We've had really fantastic public involvement in this. We really do appreciate the public being involved in this. This is an important document, and we've had very good discussion with the Board of County Commissioners in addition to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we have met, I'll just do a really quick timeline on this. This originally came in before you in November 12th, 2024, through a special call meeting where we decided to go ahead and present the contract to Kimley Horn to help with us, to be their consultants. In June 26th of 2025, the EAR-based amendments were presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission in a public hearing. On August 12th, 2025, the amendments were presented to this board, which directed staff to take the presentation back to PZC for further discussion. We did so on August 28th, 2025, presented that to them, had about an hour and a half discussion on that. And then we came back before you on September 9th, 2025, and that was our very lengthy discussion. It was a little over 5 hours. We had very, very good involvement in that. Ultimately, the board approved the transmittal of the amendments to Florida Commerce. We have done that. We received our comments letter from Florida Commerce. They had 2 policies that they thought were more restrictive or burdensome. We removed those 2 policies from our final package of amendments, and we're now here February 24, 2026, to hold our second and final public adoption hearing. Upon recommendation from the board to transmit, that's what we will do. We'll have to do that within the next 10 days to Florida Commerce. With that, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Murphy? Yes, ma'am.
I have one question and a couple of comments. First of all, I want to commend staff. It was 5 hours, and as my colleagues may recall, there were a lot. It was fast and furious, and we voted on it, but not everything was in writing. There were a lot of comments made that were to be incorporated in the final product, and I checked the minutes and compared the minutes of that meeting, that was September 9th, to the final product, and it looks like everything made the trip, so you're to be commended for that. I mean, it's an incredible task. I do have a question, though, on the building heights. As you may recall, the height restriction brought a lot of people here. There was, I'll call it a misunderstanding, that we were going to change the height limitation. We did not. We added additional language. My question is, are building heights still listed only in policy, I think it's 1.38, which is, really, it's new town development. And of course, the height restrictions apply to everything in the county. But, so that's my only question. Is that the only place that the height restrictions appear within the comprehensive plan?
In the comprehensive plan, the only mention to a specific height, a specific figure, is in that actual policy number. We have heard many times throughout the years, really, from the public, from the board, that 35 feet is sort of that magic number that the public didn't really want to go over. We do have this littered throughout the land development regulations in each lot and dimensional criteria, which is under the use table of all the commercial and residential districts. It's specifically stated maximum 35 feet. So in all of the categories, it's listed throughout the LDRs. The only way to change that is come back through public hearings in front of both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners for discussion to be able to talk about whether or not we wanted to do that. That is not something that staff could change on its own. It's not something that could be done very quickly or easily. It is locked into the land development regulations throughout the code. So at that time, we did not believe that it needed to be in the comprehensive plan since it's already in the LDRs and it's already a formal process that would be required to change it if there was even a will to do so.
No, I think it's good. It is within the comprehensive plan, that policy 1.38, and I think that increases the comfort level of the community that it's not going to change, so I was happy to see it there. My question specifically was that it was under Newtown development, but it applies to everything. So that will be clarified in the LDRs then. Is that what you're saying? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
I know, you're shaking your head.
Yes, it's already in the LDRs now. It's been in there for quite some time. We have no intention to change that at this point.
Okay. And myself, I just had two comments. Of course, I'm very disappointed that policy 2.6, and that's the U.S. Geological Survey, has been stricken from it. I know we made the case. I know it's become my cause celeb, but actually, I'll say for the chair, was not the originator of the idea. It was the Soil and Water Conservation District, and that was back in 2021, invited all 5 of us to one of their meetings and requested that we designate funding to update it. And, I obviously thought it was a great recommendation, but it didn't pass muster with everyone. Still, yet, take a moment to mourn its loss. The only other thing that I really felt concerned about in here had to do with open space. And we heard from, it's under our recreation and open space element, policy 1.1, and the county hereby adopts a recreation level of service standard of 4 recreation acres per 1,000 permanent population. And for the community, in the past, it was 6.61 recreation acres. So that's more than a 1/3 decrease in the number of recreation and the amount of recreation and open space acres per 1,000 population. And in the past, I know that reflected seasonal changes in population, and that was stricken as well. With what's going on right now in Tallahassee, it pains me to give this up, because if you wanted to take it back, it probably would not pass. Tallahassee would not agree with you. That you can't get it back, is my point. Like, you're giving up more than 1/3 of your open space and recreation acres per 1,000, and it's something that, at least in the current context, we would be unlikely to be able to get back, should we desire it. So, and I know there's a huge concern about open space, and we just saw that a couple of weeks ago with Waterway Village, and that was over, I can say only 18 acres. It's not my 18 acres, but to them, they live right next door. It's they view it, it's their 18 acres, and it's very precious to them. So I understood that, understood the upset, and, the concern about that. And those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Moss. Fellow commissioners, any comments? Hearing none at this time, we will open public comment. Anyone wants to speak about our EAR comp plan? Hearing none, we will close public comment. Commissioners, again, this is the second reading, and this is somewhat time-sensitive.
Move approval.
A motion by Commissioner Fletcher,
Second.
second by Commissioner Erman. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
And I'm going to remain opposed. I was opposed originally.
We have, motion carries 3-1.
But thanks, staff, for their work.
That Vice Chair Moss dissented on the vote. Commissioners, that brings us now to the county administrator matters. This is something significant for us on 12A, a legislative update with respect to Fellsmere Water Control District. I see before us is our Legislative Affairs Director, Ms. Kathy Copeland. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kathy Copeland, Legislative and Communications Manager. Are we going to have Commissioner Adams on the phone?
I'm here.
Okay.
We have Commissioner Adams joining us. Welcome, Commissioner Adams. We miss you.
I miss you guys. It's cold up here.
I'm sure, well, it's cold down here. Commissioner Fletcher's over here shivering.
Yeah. I am a Floridian.
You are now. Welcome, Ms. Copeland.
Okay, this is, we are in week 7 of the legislative session. Thank you. And I just wanted to give you a brief update of what's happened since the last time we spoke and remind the public what we're talking about, House Bill 4093 and 4095. And both of those are going to make a split in what currently exists as the, thank you, that's not working, Fellsmere Water Control District. So I put in here an addition just to let everyone know that the Fellsmere Water Control District does include 2,326 acres that belong jointly to the St. Johns River Water Management District and DEP. The Florida Department of Environmental Regulation actually manages the property, and I'll refer to it again, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that that was an element of the project that we are in discussions on, and it is included in the bill in terms of the acreage. So, how do I, this isn't working. Oh. Okay, this just gives us the idea, and again, this is for review, that the Fellsmere Water Control District is going to become a dependent district under the governance of the county, which means that you as the county commissioners will become the board of the Fellsmere Water Control District, and the independent district will now be known as the Headwaters Water Control District, and they will be a 298 just like it is now. I want to emphasize to both the public and to staff that this is a transfer of governance. It is not a subsidized, the county is not going to be subsidizing operations of this district, and we are not adding a division in public works. This is going to be a 298 that is moving over under the governance. The operations will continue to be managed through contracts, which exist now, and those hopefully will become part of the ILA that we would like for you to consider. Well, how do I go back? I can't. Since we last spoke, I think I mentioned to you that the city of Fellsmere had a concern. They had an annexation agreement that was executed in 2007. Their attorney, Mr. Dill, was emphatic that he really wanted this reference in the actual legislation. A lot of us and the attorneys thought that it might be duplicative, but because they felt very strongly about it, everybody agreed to add it. So today, the bill is being considered in committee, and this is an amendment to the legislation. You're going to have to switch it for me. I can't. It's not working. Okay, I want to emphasize for you that the highlights, these are concerns from the citizens. Representative Brackett did hold a conference call. There was a lot of the citizens that called into the conference call, and these are the highlights that were articulated. This has been a theme throughout ever since we started talking about this months ago. They are very concerned about the overall management of the canals and the ditches, primarily as it relates to the expenditures of their money, which those folks who are in favor of this have a lot more confidence in the county's ability to manage that. They feel like it's going to be more transparent. Many of them have expressed a fear and extreme hike of their assessment. The county's been very clear that we cannot promise them that there won't be an increase in the assessment, but we do have in the legislation the development of a water management plan, and we also are proposing an interlocal agreement between the county and the Fellsmere FJB that would articulate the two of us working together and highlight that anything that we do would be transparent, discuss with them. We've talked about a 5-year plan, looking at the canal and dividing it up in sizes that we can afford to clear and make the vegetation so that the conveyance of the water is more operative. The people seem fairly comfortable with that, but they did want me to make sure that you all understood that they're very concerned about their assessments and how much they pay. Right now, they pay $39 an acre. They are aware that that's probably low in terms of what they want to have happen, but for now, they would like to stay at that level, and they are okay with their level of service. They just want to make sure that the money that they're putting into it, that they can actually see what's being done in the canals. They also requested a citizen advisory committee. As you are aware, there's several different options for that. We did not put this into the legislation or describe what the committee would look like. We just said that the board would consider a citizen advisory committee made up of those folks that own property in the area, and we will let the board decide what that should look like. This is the annexation language. You can skip that. This is the St. John River Water Management District information. I just wanted to make everybody aware that the Water Management District does own 5,416 acres in the park known as the St. Sebastian River Preserve. They manage it for conservation and preservation. They like it wet. It's supposed to be that way. They don't feel like the actual canal system serves them in terms of everybody else. It drains the property. They're in the system, and so what we have had conversations with them, our county attorney and I talked with their attorney, and then I spoke with their intergovernmental representative who relayed to me that he had had conversations with the executive director and their leadership, and that they are comfortable working collaboratively with us through a transition if the bill does pass, and that they feel comfortable that if we need to develop any kind of formalized relationship, that they have a good working relationship with the county, and they feel comfortable that we can get there without any wording in the legislation. Is that it? Okay, I just wanted to remind you that these were the highlights that came through in the First Amendment. These have all been addressed. I put these in there just for reference. Go. This is all backwards. Okay. Again, this is just to remind everybody of where we have been. And this bill is up today in the State Affairs Committee. It was up at 8:30. I don't know. I'm guessing that it's either passed or passing with the Fellsmere amendment. You can go to the next one. Keep going. I need the one at the end. I do have, yeah.
You're
the
going
last one.
backwards. You need to go forwards.
Yeah. It's not going.
Go back
Okay.
one more. Go
There-
back one more.
Wait, right there.
One more.
That's it. That was it.
Wasn't there assessment rates?
No, I don't want, we don't need that. That was just in case we had a
Okay.
question.
Gotcha.
The one you had, yeah, you had it right.
So,
The
Commissioners-
recommendation, right?
Commissioners, what we have basically is an
Okay.
update on the legislative process. And the interesting thing, and I think the promising thing is,
Right there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's okay, go ahead.
I just would like for you all to understand that everything that is not in the legislation, we have proposed a interlocal agreement so that we can actually describe the assets that would be transferred over from the reserves to the building, to the equipment, the contracts. Those are the kinds of things that you don't put in legislation, but to give us a level of comfort and the citizens a level of comfort, we want some mechanism to describe what's going to happen between when the bill passes and when it becomes law. Their assessments, there will be a meeting, and their assessments will be determined at that time, the high level. They can always take it back down. But we would like to make sure that any expenditures between the bill passing and it become law is actually, that there's consultation between the county and the FJB. So this is just something I would like the board to give the county administrator the ability for us to formulate an ILA with the county attorney and then for him to execute it. And then we can bring it back to the board. But because this is moving, I just thought I would mention it now to make sure that you all are comfortable with us moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Commissioners, please keep us apprised of the process of this legislation, and we thank you. Commissioners, up next is the economic
Chair.
impact.
I'm sorry. It was a specific recommendation that Kathy made that I think would require a vote of the board, although it wasn't actually something that was included in our agenda packet before. So that is a little bit problematic.
I didn't read any, okay.
Okay, so I think her recommendation was that you authorize the county administrator to sign an interlocal that had these matters in it. And I had not seen this before. It was created today, but I think you could add this to the agenda on a unanimous vote. I know Commissioner Adams is here, and that if you were to take this action to authorize the county administrator to sign this interlocal, I would recommend that it be subject to the review and approval of the county attorney and that it be brought back to you for ratification if the board wanted to take this action. Otherwise, I would recommend a special meeting.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Well, we are very pleased to have Commissioner Adams on the line. Commissioner Adams, you still with us?
I'm here.
Thank you. I know this is a very important matter that impacts your district. However, Counsel, for the record there, Commissioner Adams, we're calling for a vote. Could Commissioner Adams vote via telephone on a matter? I believe that was addressed in Tallahassee.
So I did kind of look at this because I was aware she would not be here. And there is nothing in your rules of procedure that prohibits her from attending remotely. There has been guidance put out by the Attorney General on whether a local government commissioner or council member can attend remotely, and the guidance that was given was that it would require that a majority of the commissioners be present physically, which is met here, and that the requirement for the remote attendance be some extraordinary circumstances. In other words, it would not be convenience. It would be either an illness that prevented attendance, or in this case, I understand that Commissioner Adams is up in Washington, D.C., attending to some business up there for the county, I believe, or counties. So I do think it would be allowed because your rules of procedure don't prevent it. But in this case, because it would be an action item added to this agenda, I think there should be a unanimous vote to add it, and that I have made some other recommendations with regards to that.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to clarify, because post.
I do appreciate
The
that.
COVID discussion.
Yes.
We did have some challenges that rode back up to Tallahassee, and we were given a directive, and I wanted to ensure that we were legally sufficient,
I agree, thank you.
and to include Commissioner Adams.
Because it had gotten out of control and there weren't a majority of
Yes.
members present physically, and yes, that's why the Attorney General came out with that.
Thank you.
So basically, in the absence of a vote, this could perhaps jeopardize it. So it's pretty clear what we need to do today.
Yes. Let's make a motion to approve and direct the county administrator to engage.
And is the motion to include it in the agenda as an action item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I would also add, following up on what the county attorney had mentioned, it would be subject to the county attorney's review and approval and subsequent ratification by the Board of County Commissioners.
We have a motion by
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher. I will second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Commissioners, the next item is Economic Impact Indian River Lagoon and Stakeholder Workshop. We will be taking a 9-minute recess and reconvene at 10 a.m.
I like that.
Good morning again. It's 10 o'clock, the 24th of February, 2026 Board of County Commission meeting resumes. The next item, fellow commissioners, is the Economic Impact of Indian River Lagoon and Stakeholder Workshop. And we see Director Kylie Yamachula. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. So it is my pleasure to introduce some guests that we have today. So we have Dr. Dwayne DeFries, a man who needs no introduction to you all, but regardless, he is the Executive Director of the Lagoon Council and of the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. He is here with us, as well as members of the Balmoral Group, Courtney Cortez and Maddie Drury. So they are here today to talk to us about the $9.4 million NOAA grant that was received by the IRL and EP for restoration work, and then they're going to talk about the economic valuation of the Indian River Lagoon. After that, staff has a little bit of a recommendation for you all to consider as well. So with nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Dr. DeFries.
Good morning, Doctor. And
Good
welcome.
morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd be remiss not to take a moment to thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the support of the IRL Council interlocal agreement. I just came from Tallahassee, and I think we're all worried about the same things that are going on in Washington and Tallahassee as it relates to funding. At the moment, the council is in good shape. So 2026, I think we're in great shape. We're just entering discussions up in Washington for fiscal year 27, but we've had really good bipartisan support so far. And what I want to do is just quickly set up kind of where we are and also how we got to this economic study. And I'm going to start with just saying the update will be very, very brief, but all of the information is in your package. Annual reports there, economic summary, but also I went ahead and printed out the PowerPoint so you have it, in your package in hard copy. This is what we look like since 2015-16 when we created the council. Over 267 projects funded by the council, over $29 million, and we can't do this without your partnerships and without your projects. And as you all know, we do this every year through a competitive request for proposal opportunity, both in, you see, nutrient reduction, and a little money was heading your way again after this last 2 weeks for water quality, community engagement, habitat restoration, and science and engineering and modeling. And so we've kind of spread our modest money around to try to fill gaps and do the best work we can. None of these projects alone are transformational, and many of them, in fact, most of them, have matching grants from our partners, including Indian River County. I thought you might be interested in looking at how this lays out county by county. And you notice Indian River County, over that same time period, 21 projects, almost 2.7 million. And then lagoon-wide, and these projects impact and benefit all the counties along the lagoon, 7.3 million and 110 projects. So we're typically managing, somewhere between 40 and 45 projects a year. And with the small staff, that's a lot of oversight. I want to just focus on our NOAA Transformational Habitat Grant. You're going to hear about one of the products in a minute from the Balmoral Group. When the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act fund was first passed by Congress, I forget what year it was, but it was in the last administration, about 1.3 billion, hit the street for infrastructure. NOAA had very large notices of funding opportunities that none of our individual projects would have reached. What they wanted was transformational projects in habitat restoration or in coastal resilience. The first year we assembled a team, put in a proposal, trying to get NOAA to think about our partnership and these small individual projects coming together as transformational. Not only the project themselves, but we made the case that our partnership was transformational, that the workforce and the community of practice in habitat restoration, they came back that first year, said, we really like this project, but we're not going to fund it. A lot of folks, and my message here for anybody listening, your staff and all of our partners, is don't give up. If you get even a half-decent review on a proposal, bring it back. And so the second year, we worked with NOAA, found where they had some interests and some areas they weren't interested in, and actually got the funding, then had to renegotiate. And so our project now is $9.4 million awarded, 15 restoration sites, 10 sub-awardees, and you are one of those sub-awardees as the county. However, the workforce underneath those sub-awardees is significant, and I just listed it. And the one I'm most interested in is the funding that's coming through the public sector, reaching our private sector, and you can see in this 16 industry consultants, and also a lot of volunteers, which is free labor, but those volunteers, many of them are students who wind up looking at engineering or marine science as future careers. So we're deep in year 2 of this project, and 2 of these projects are in Indian River County. The first one, you are the lead on the seagrass restoration at Big Slough and Preacher's Hole. That project is complete. And I'd be remiss not to thank Melissa, for Meisenberg for her lead on this. We know she's having some medical issues, but we are with her and she's done a great job. What's left on this over the next year and a half is that the county will continue to monitor, but we've also got Tetra Tech under contract to do as-builts on all these projects. That was not part of our original proposal, but NOAA has supported it. So you can see 12.8 acres of seagrass, herbivory devices. Everybody is looking kind of to scale this up. And I want to go on record, we are not going to plant our way to 140,000 acres of seagrass loss since 2010, 2011. Water quality is going to be the key, but we can accelerate seagrass restoration with these plantings. The second project is also in Indian River County, and that's with the Indian River Land Trust. That project has multiple partners and components. As you all know, with your own projects, it takes a long time to get permits. We're at local, state, and federal. We finally are starting to move this project forward. And in March 2, working with the Mosquito Control District, we'll be starting to put culverts in for fish passage at Bee Gum Point. So we're moving forward. Your projects are actually leading the pack. We've only got one other project completed up in Brevard County, and the rest are underway. Everybody says, how do you know this is working? And we've got data now both for harmful algal blooms and habitat recovery. And this is recent data from the St. Johns River Water Management District. We are seeing seagrasses recover, but it is the beginning of that recovery. We were a decade of loss, and we're going to be years getting back to where we were, if we can get there. But this is a very encouraging sign, and we're going to have ups and downs, and I just want to let you know we've got some algal blooms popping up right now, even with this cold weather. And with all of the, debris and plant death along the shoreline, I'm just a little concerned what the spring's going to bring. The good news is we can't predict this. We just need to be ready, if something happens with a harmful algal bloom. But we're on the right path if we can keep investing in these projects. One of the deliverables, which was in the first notice of funding from NOAA, then was pulled, was socioeconomic analysis and economic impact. We felt very strongly that we along the Indian River Lagoon needed to have an update of that 2016 economic study. So we approached the NOAA folks and said, we're going to go ahead and line item. And we combined $75,000 from NOAA with the remaining funds that we had from our EPA funding to make the work that you're about to see a reality. And this work was considerable by the Balmoral Group. There's two major products. One is a socioeconomic profile that's kind of led in to what Courtney is going to show you today. An economic valuation, and this is going to be very unique because it drills down to a benefit cost ratio, which she'll talk about, for the NOAA project. So we can go back to NOAA and say, you gave us $9.4 million. Here is your return on investment in a real estimate. We've got an executive summary, which you have in your package, and we've got an interactive dashboard. Courtney, you may mention that, but that's still kind of in the works. So with that, unless there's questions for me, I'm going to introduce Courtney Cortez, a senior economist at the Balmoral Group, and the data she's going to show you is a little over a year's worth of research. So when you saw that, $330,000 cost, this is not an inexpensive process to drive it as deep as we have. And I'll say working with the Balmoral Group has been my great pleasure. They are as good as they get when it comes to this kind of valuation, not only in America and Florida, but in Australia and Europe. So unless I have questions, I'm going to turn it over to the expert. The last thing you want is to have a marine biologist talk about economics.
That's pretty high on the list, Doc. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Hearing none. Ms. Cortez, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. So I am, did it pull up? Hold, please. Great, thank you. So good morning, I'm Courtney Cortez. I'm a senior economist with the Balmoral Group. Dwayne had introduced me. With me today is my colleague, Madison Drury, also with the Balmoral Group. We're really appreciative of the opportunity to present our work today in front of you all and the public as well. And as well as, thank Dwayne and his team at the NEP for being able to produce this results for you. So with that, one of the things we did different with this economic update, there was one completed previously for the Indian River Lagoon, but this update really focused on the inclusion of ecosystem services within the valuation as part of this process. So the Indian River Lagoon is really rich in its resources. There's over 900,000 acres of natural and agricultural lands, retaining more than 100 billion gallons of floodwaters annually. So you can imagine those floodwaters would have nowhere else to go if those lands were not intact, and they would end up, in your businesses, streets, and buildings as well. So we thought it was important this time to focus on some of those ecosystem services, including over 50,000 acres of natural lands, providing additional coastal protection, over 360,000 acres of land, providing additional water filtration and purification, ecosystem services. And these lands are generating really substantial values for habitat, recreation, and aesthetics. And so those the modeling processes for these ecosystem service values generate over $10 billion annually across the lagoon system. It ranges greatly across the different ecosystem services types. So they're in the largest chunk, $6.8 billion in recreational values and activities. But importantly, we do want to highlight that there is over $1 billion in your aesthetic values that are tied to your property value premiums, and then down so forth to $250 million in coastal protection. And so the way that we look at these ecosystem services is by these specific modeling processes that estimate what would have been the process if that habitat was not there, or what that value would have been had that habitat not been maintained. So this box on the top of the screen is highlighting the model processes that we use is the INVEST model, so the Integrated Valuation of Ecosystem Services tool out of Stanford University. So this calculates the exposure to those different coastal hazards with and without the natural processes intact. So this screen grab on the right is showing the Tequesta area, mangroves and oyster beds. And these are showing that those lands, if they were not preserved across the lagoon in general, so this is, again, just an example of that. If those natural processes were not intact, these are protecting over $250 million annually across the lagoon. So as mentioned by Dwayne, there were the NOAA-funded projects that we looked at as well that are either underway or completed. We do know a number of those have been completed. And we estimate that these are providing an additional $8.4 million in ecosystem services, particularly for coastal protection in this example. So water filtration is similar. This map here is showing the values ranging from $50,000 up to $4.3 million by those subbasins here. So across the lagoon, that's an additional 360,000 acres. Providing water and nutrient filtration. And this is really important to highlight as those would otherwise have to replace infrastructure. So think those really expensive treatment plant upgrades and so forth. And so these are important ecosystem services to the tune of over $500 million annually for those water filtration services. The projects underway now, so again, those NOAA-funded projects are expected to add another $38 million at full completion. And from a wildlife habitat perspective, the people of Florida have consistently stated a high preference for preservation of the environmental habitats of our wildlife and habitat connectivity. We find that these habitats across the lagoon are generating over $1 billion annually in ecosystem services, particularly the public's willingness to pay to protect those. So that ranges greatly across the lagoon, shown here in this subbasin map. And we find that these are generating $400,000 up to $90 million by those subbasins. And then finally, talking about the property values or the aesthetic value. So these are your cold hard cash values, somewhat of a little bit of a easier number to digest from the public's perspective, considering this is the value that's generated by proximity to, in this case, the lagoon system. We look at this by looking at the sales transaction data from the county property appraisers, and then we do modeling to statistically tease out what that value would be for a home if it was, say, right on the water versus very far away from the water. So we take, a standard house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, for an example, just use that as case, what that value of that home is right up against the water versus very far away, and we can statistically tease out that amenity associated with that. So in Indian River County, being within 100 meters of the lagoon adds about $660,000 over and above the value, all factors being equal. And of course, this does vary greatly across the counties within the lagoon system. So in Palm Beach County, for example, that number of being within 100 meters of the lagoon jumps to close to $1 million in premiums. And so in Indian River County, we end up with about $3.1 billion in property value premiums contributed by the lagoon system. So that does sound like a large number, right, $3.1 billion, but to put this into context, the just values across the entire county is about $51 billion. So that represents about 6%, but that's a really important 6%. We annualize, when you're talking about this in the context of an annual number, that's contributing almost $190 million to the local economy. And then we also looked, again, as Dwayne had mentioned, we looked at those NOAA-funded projects specifically that I also touched on earlier in the ecosystem services. Looking at the different habitat types across the lagoon, so salt marsh, oyster reefs, living shorelines, and so forth. We looked at the project costs over 10 years and then the project benefits over 10 years. And that's an important point to highlight here is that 10-year period is generally when those habitat restorations are considered at their full maturity, which is why we looked at it in the 10-year context. You can see those two projects that Dwayne had mentioned earlier. Just using Big Slough as an example, that the Seagrass project, $600,000 in costs over 10 years is generating $5 million in benefits. So substantial return in that case. I do want to highlight there are two really large projects that were included as part of this analysis, including the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge there with $55 million in benefits for that restoration effort, and then the Bee Gum Point Marsh at $30.7 million for their full benefit values there. So really huge numbers and transformative projects benefiting the lagoons and the fisheries here. Those two projects are, restoring flows to coastal wetland habitats, particularly in the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. That's, removing some of those impoundments. And so when we look at this in terms of how these projects shake out in terms of the benefit cost ratios, representing how many benefits you receive per dollar of cost here, anything over 1 is considered good. So your benefits are exceeding your costs and when that number exceeds 1. As I just mentioned, those two very large projects, Bee Gum Point and Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, those are very large BCRs, but when we take those two out of the conversation here across these ranges, right, you still have a BCR of 10 across the lagoon, so $10 in benefits for every $1 in cost. But bringing this back to the bigger picture here, including those, you do have a return of 24 times, so $24 in benefits for every $1 in cost. So these are really good expenditures of public funds to restore those habitats. And lastly, covering those traditional economic impact results, we use, for economic impact modeling, we use an input-output model through an in-plan software. This measures the effects of spending as dollars flow through the regional economy. So that spending data is margin for dollars that leave the local economy. I'll use buying a gallon of gas for an example here. So when you purchase a gallon of gas, there is a certain percentage of that dollar or the spending associated with that leaves the local economy, as petroleum is not primarily produced within the state. So most of that does not stay local. So those local purchases, that do occur here can contribute significantly in these types of models. Regional multipliers are then used to estimate those impacts, and that includes your tax revenues. And I do want to highlight the induced effects in this case are largely from your visitor activity. And so when we look at this across the entire lagoon, we end up with about $27 billion in total output. That is contributing $15 billion to your local GDP here in the Indian River Lagoon region. Again, this is for across the region. And then looking at that property value impacts annualized, that is $1.4 billion annually in your property premiums. So this does support 128,000 jobs across the lagoon system and really significant impacts. And so looking at this across the sectors specifically, we can see how this teases out from everything from recreation to natural resource management and to your aerospace industries here within the region as well, contributing significant shares to employment as well. I do want to take a minute there to highlight the aerospace, as it does contribute and depend on those wide open spaces without development. So again, maintaining some of that habitat connectivity is important for that sector to thrive here, as has been demonstrated over time. And I do also want to highlight that for natural resource management specifically, we were able to contribute, estimate 450 direct jobs in natural resource management activities across the lagoon. And that spending associated with natural resource management generates more than $1 in local GDP for every dollar invested. So as you might recall from my petroleum example, much of that is leaving the local economies. These dollars are staying here locally. And they are supporting additional indirect and induced jobs associated with that. So for those 450 jobs are contributing an additional 600 jobs over and above them. And finally, looking at these results in the context of Indian River County specifically to drill down, recreation is the lion's share of the contribution here with over $674 million in value added to the local economy and supporting over 8,400 jobs in that sector specifically. And natural resource management is still significant there with over 148 jobs contributed. All told, including your property value premiums annually, this is $878 million in value added to the local economy. And finally, Dwayne did touch on the dashboard tool that was a product of these efforts. This dashboard is publicly available. It allows users to slice and dice the data by city, county, over time, and so forth. And the link there is at the bottom of the screen, but I do believe it is also on the NEP's website as well for you to access and look at this data. And with that, thank you so much for the time to share this information with you, and I'll open up for any questions.
Well, thank you, Courtney. Thank you, commissioners, for listening. Any questions for Courtney?
No, I don't have any questions. I got a few things to add. That I've seen this presentation obviously before. I've had some more information probably than you're actually seeing today. And what I tend to see in this is a lot of B's at the end of the number with some M's directly related to Indian River County. So what that tells me is if you don't look at the lagoon, the whole estuary as a diverse ecological resource for fish and snook and redfish and trout and birds and ospreys, you ought to look at it as an economic aspect if you can't look at it at the ecological aspect. So it's amazing to me from the figures that like I was aware of and what we saw back in the 2020 as to what it is now. It's just incredible that that $28 billion number is thrown out throughout the whole 156 miles of the estuary. That's huge. So again, if you're not going to look at it from a conservation and ecological standpoint, look at it, the economic impact of what it has and how vital it is to our economy to not let this valuable, piece of estuary go down the tubes because we didn't try. I can tell you that I'm no Dwayne DeFries, I'm no marine biologist, but as I've told you many times, I spent most of my life out on that lagoon at various times, more and less, but I'm very well aware of its health, and it's definitely different than what it was when I was growing up here as a kid because we have more people, we have more stuff. But I can tell you, we're fighting the good fight. We're making a difference. It might be too slow for some people, but if we keep up the momentum and look at it from a not only an ecological but an economic standpoint, I think we can continue to make a difference. So the money that this county is spending on the lagoon is certainly not wasteful. And I can tell you from being your chairman the past year on the Indian River Lagoon Estuary Program, the RLNEP for here, that money is well spent. It's just well spent. It is well managed. Dwayne, Dan, Kathy, Aaron, they all do such a great job of running it that I'm very proud of them and what they do. But commissioners, I can tell you that we need to keep working real hard on this, and you see the numbers support it, that we're making a difference out there. It's not something that can be done overnight, but we're making a difference. I had the opportunity to go out with Matt Stevens, part of our fine group of our natural resource department, and I took Max out with me, and we went and looked at some of the seabed plantings. I didn't know we had that many here out there planted, but there's quite a few, and it's a big deal, and it's kind of labor intensive, but it's working. It's definitely working, and if it continues to work, we can do more. But the fact is that, and Matt made a good point, which I didn't realize, that these scientists now can take the seagrass that grows and they can take it back to the lab and look at the genetics of it and see why it's growing better than other species of seagrass. And so it's just amazing of the science that's out there and everything else, but some of it costs money. So as long as we put the money in the right spots and do it for the right reasons, we'll make a difference someday in the lagoon. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's other things we need to do, septic sewer and all those type of things. Get that done and worry about our stormwater, which our Natural Resource Department for us is on top of it, along with, our conservation lands. And, earlier, we was under item 7 about our conservation lands that we're buying on the lagoon. So any River County is making a difference. We're doing the right things, pushing the right buttons. And I think, by having Courtney here in Balmoral Group, just gives it another view to say, look at it from an economic standpoint too, is what we're gaining and what we would lose if we just, let it go. So I'm done talking, sir.
Appreciate that. Mr. Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question. This has been very interesting to see the property values quantified in terms of the economic impact of the lagoon, or economic value. So that's positive, okay? It's a positive number, positive economic impact. But it's, to me, how do you reconcile that with negative or adverse environmental impact of people living along the lagoon? Because certainly when you have developments on the lagoon, that creates environmental problems. I mean, so on the one hand, it's positive, but on the other hand, it's negative, and they seem to be at odds with each other. So I don't know how you reconcile that. If there's some kind of mathematical equation, how does it come out? What's the final, what's the sum total? Is it positive or negative? How much how much money is added versus how much of the environment is destroyed? Where did we end up? Is there an equation, or is that calculated in any way, or taken into consideration, that reconciliation?
In this study, not directly, but that there is certainly a modeling process that can be done. We had also been the consultant for the Inland Navigation District, and I do know, in other counties, we did have to look at some of those frontage effects differently, particularly in the northern end of on the East Coast in Duval and Nassau County, right? You have very large swaths of marsh area in front of those developed lands. And so there are ways that those effects can be teased out and understood. In this specific case where you have most of your developments already up against the water, that's a different way to look at it in terms of how you would model that effect had those not already been developed. In this, we do have some other effects where we've considered property values in the context of water quality. So looking at where you have harmful algal blooms negatively impacting your property values as well. So we do recognize that there certainly are environmental trade-offs from both the development perspective as well as from those water quality perspective as well. If the waterfront looks terrible, if there's a fish kill in the front of your property every year, right, that property becomes significantly less desirable. And we do know what those effects are in other areas of the state as well. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. It becomes very expensive over time. One of the things that we're facing right now is the conversion of septic to sewer, and especially in the North County, a lot of it was along the lagoon, a lot of the septic, and converting that becomes very costly, but it's been a real source of pollution. It's been very, very negative impact on the lagoon. So it's it's just an interesting consideration.
Thank you.
What's the sum total? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further comments?
Courtney, I just want to say thank you. I think Dr. DeFries had mentioned the cost factor of going so deep into this. It reminds me of, I don't know if you remember, you don't remember 1975. That was when I was studying marine biology and diving. And the focus was on what was within the waters. And I just want to thank you for the scope of the study and to understand and include what's happening outside the waters and what we have to do to go forward. It's going to have a significant impact, and I'm very pleased. And thank you for your part. I understand the group has been working for quite some time on it, and this is a great tool and an instrument for us to make positive decisions and funding.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Fletcher. You know, it's fine, we're finally hearing, I think Commissioner Ehrman hit it on the head. This might be some of the first time we've heard good news with respect to, kind of good news with seagrass, and we're very thankful for that. We've been very, very patient. Oftentimes, Commissioners, we think of our 22 miles of lagoon, and we forget about Volusia, Brevard, and St. Lucie and Martin. So although we are the smallest with our 22 miles, we are the mightiest, and we will continue on that charge. So thank you. Ms. Yanchula, if you'd like to bring this in for a close.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. So just a couple of wrap-up items that we'd like to talk about. So I think everyone here can now truly appreciate the economic value of the lagoon as well as the ecological resource that it is. So just, you know, a couple of reminders. So the county has been very heavily engaged in regional recovery through your participation in the Lagoon Council and the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. So some of our local efforts, in addition to some of the things that were touched on by Dr. DeFries and Courtney, include our water quality initiatives, so some of the projects related to stormwater. So we do have our 4 major stormwater treatment facilities that do provide a lot of service in that way. Egret Marsh, Moorhen Marsh, Osprey Acres, and then I think we should probably rename the PC main screening structure because when you compare it to the other ones, it's not as pretty of a name. But yeah, right. But also we have some major infrastructure projects, as Commissioner Ehrman mentioned, the septic to sewer conversions, and those treatment facilities are major infrastructure, in addition to a lot of our roadside swale networks, our smaller retentions and whatnot. We have, you know, invested quite a bit of money locally in land conservation. So just at Commissioner Moss's point regarding the development happening adjacent to the lagoon, this is one of the ways that we can strategize to help prevent some of that development in that critical area. So that's another effort that the county has focused on, as well as our restoration activities. So we had talked about the seagrass plantings, resiliency. We just completed a project where we put oyster reef balls outside of Lawrence Island. So that's been in place for about a year now. We've got that wrapping up in our resource management. So I'm sure everyone has gotten quite a few calls about derelict vessels and our removals about those and whatnot. So the county really is taking this very seriously. We have a lot of local things that are going on. So going forward, so right now our department has widely been focused on our efforts as they relate to the Indian River County Lagoon Management Plan, which was adopted by the board in September of 2023. We are interested in working towards an update to that plan internally with staff, just to go through the projects, list some of the areas where we've made some progress, and then to try to strategize areas where perhaps we haven't made as much progress. And then also, we continue to support the Central Indian River Lagoon Basin Management Action Plan. Or as was aptly pointed out by the leadership, there is an acronym for that, so the Cyril BMAP. So in order for us to continue to succeed, we really need to continue our stakeholder support efforts. So we feel that this is an essential element in maintaining the momentum forward, and we would like to focus a little bit on some of those county project efforts. So in order for us to do that, staff is proposing that we move forward with 2 workshops so that we can get all of our partners at the table, talk to the municipalities, talk to mosquito control, work with our environmental groups, work with our tourism groups, work with our realty groups, and get some local input in terms of our project planning, enhance the communication that we have across jurisdictions. After we did the seagrass planting project, the town of Orchid came and expressed an interest in seeing what we could do to perhaps move that further than the 23 acres that were planted. So that's an example of that. Also, the town of Orchid and the town of Indian River Shores have expressed interest in having additional conversations about how we may be able to partner towards the Cyril BMAP efforts, the city of Fellsmere as well. So really, there's a lot of interest locally in how can we coordinate, how can we get more bang for our buck, if you will. So basically, what can we do to leverage resources in order to better protect water quality and to have a greater impact on the lagoon? So that's kind of what we see as our vision going forward as our next step. So with that, I have a staff recommendation that I'm requesting that the board consider. So we are requesting that you approve staff to work towards hosting 2 stakeholder workshops, one focused on that lagoon management plan and one focused on the Cyril BMAP with a budgetary impact of staff time and printing. I guess I didn't put that in there, but printing costs and whatnot. So again, thank you for your time.
Commissioner Fletcher.
That's an easy one. I just had one question. Dr. DeFries be at the workshop?
The answer better be yes.
And I have a slight indication it might be approved, so I didn't want to put you on the spot.
He's a busy man.
I know you have a busy schedule, but
We'll be happy to help you in any way we can, either presenting, providing additional data as you need on the bigger picture. There's no question these workshops are a way to kind of advance the longer strategic plan than the day-to-day operations. I just I just lost my, that's the chemo brain occasionally coming in and my brain doesn't talk to my mouth. We just did 2 workshops with Brevard County Board of County Commissioners, who today will be talking about extending the half-cent sales tax. And so a number of us were asked to actually participate actively in 2 public workshops and hearings. So we're here to support you. You tell us, what you need from us, including even financial support if we can, find, some support there. We see my team and our program as your program. You invest in the council, and we try to do everything we can to make your jobs easier and your staff's jobs. So whatever you need, we'll help. But I do think that strategic planning, the forward-looking, to Commissioner Moss's statement, the tension between private property rights, zoning, 800 people a day still coming, even though it's slowed into the state of Florida. Property by property, these conflicts are going to happen. In Brevard, it's Kennedy Space Center and the massive growth that we'll see up there, especially with workforce. I've looked at the projections on population. On a per cap basis, the 2 fastest growing counties, at least on the last projections, will be Indian River County and St. Lucie County. And so, it's a good idea to start thinking about the big picture and to think what you want Indian River County to look like, not just the lagoon, but, the whole county itself. But it is a challenge, and it is one that if we don't do it proactively with a vision for how you want Indian River County to look, then you're going to look back and say, wow, that happened really quickly. I've been here 47 years. I'm stunned. And like you, Commissioner, I grew up in New York. I saw this in Long Island, and then I saw it in Rhode Island. What were sleepy, somewhat rural residential communities are now urban centers. And so a lot of this is the vision you want for your community. And in our comprehensive conservation management plan that we developed with you all and certified back in 2019, we made a statement which is really relevant today, that the NEP supports local home rule. And we're all fighting that issue on a regular basis these days.
And the bay up there, Doc, has 2-foot visibility. We need it longer. We're gonna
We
get
have
there.
our days, so when I showed you the seagrass map, we're not improving at the same rate in the same areas. I'm going to guess that, this is going to be up and down for a while, 10-plus years of algal blooms. That's not going to stop overnight. But for us as scientists, enough clarity to get seagrasses not only rebounding, but spreading in density to support our fisheries, that's the start. And we'll be at this for a while. I know that Courtney mentioned, I think maybe it was Commissioner Ehrman mentioned the seagrass nurseries. We have 5 operational seagrass nurseries now, one in Martin County, one at Harbor Branch, Brevard Zoo. Sea and Shoreline is using the funding that we use for some of your outplantings. And then up in Volusia County in New Smyrna Beach, that was all funded by federal funds. This economic study, federal funds. So that's the power we can bring in our partnership, keep those federal funds. And also, I'm going to ask this since you brought me back. I'm going to be up in Washington, D.C. at the end of the month for 2 weeks. And so if you have what they are now calling community requests at the federal level, by all means, have the county manager let me know what your priorities are. You may have seen the news just a while back. Representative Mike Haradopoulos brought $14 million worth of community projects to Brevard County. Of those 11 projects, 9 of them are Indian River Lagoon and water quality related. So we're here to help in any way and would enjoy a workshop with you all.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Fletcher.
Thank you for your commitment.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Dr. DeFries for taking his time to come up here today. In the last almost 6 years, I've watched him work every day, and it's just amazing to what I've learned that I didn't know about the Indian River Lagoon. And I've even lived here longer than he has, but he's a lot smarter than me. So I appreciate it. So with that, I can tell you that from the stakeholder standpoint, I talked with staff a lot about this with regards to how we wanted to form it. We had some different ideas, but now that we have a natural resource staff, which I think is the best thing that this county has probably ever done, creating a new bureau within the county is the best thing we've ever done. The fact that we have a staff and personnel to help our natural resources projects come to life and to monitor them has been a great thing. So we talked about how we're going to have, say, a lagoon counselor, or what we're going to do, how we're going to form it. And what we came up with, and I know that I think she met with all y'all, what we came up with is what you were told. We came up with this stakeholders idea versus forming a actual committee that we could have more open conversations, we could do things faster, and would get all the minds and the people that are involved and the people that want to be a part of it and make decisions and give advice to the Natural Resource Department to bring to us, that we thought this is the best way to do it for now. We'll see how the two turn out. If we need to go to another plan, we can do that. But I think this is such a great idea and a good start. And anybody that wants to be involved in lagoon management and the betterment of the lagoon can attend these, and everybody will be able to speak. But it'll be kind of operated and run by the Natural Resources Department, and they'll figure out who the stakeholders are, and I'm sure more will come forward. But I think this is a great idea, and I commend Kyle and her staff for coming up with this and taking the forefront on this. But they're doing a great job. We got a lot of good things going on. So with that, I'll approve staff to make a motion to have staff hold 2 stakeholder workshops focused on the lagoon management plan, the other focused on the central IRL basin management action plan.
Second with discussion.
We have a motion with a second from Commissioner Fletcher. Yes, sir.
And the motion does include to have 2 workshops where I believe we will have a cultivation of, there are many PhDs, doctors in the field that over the years we met, over the years have had input, and I think this is a great invitation with the information from the Balmoral Group and
Yeah,
that we will cultivate,
my idea is,
but not a committee.
yeah. My idea is to leave it with the professionals that we've hired to run this natural resource department to determine that. I think they'll wear because all the people that I know that have an interest have been in touch with our natural resource department. Those are the people that we want. People that have an interest, have the knowledge, and no matter what, just, give good input as to what we can do.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Natural Resources friends. Thank you, Doc, for being here.
Thank you again, Don.
Commissioner, the next item is the Local Jobs Grant Program. This will be a discussion led by our Economic Development Manager, Mr. Doug Dombrowski. Good morning and welcome, Mr. Dombrowski.
Morning, Chairman Lauren, Commissioners. Item number 13I1 is requesting authorization to revise the Local Jobs Grant Program for future consideration of the board. Staff is requesting this authorization in advance because the current program was formerly approved by this commission. And we're also sensitive to the staff time that will be involved in the revision of this program as well, both our Department of Planning and Development Services and the county attorney. In 2025, an objective of the Planning and Development Services Department was to evaluate the county's current economic development programs for utilization, for effectiveness, for consistency with Florida statute and code. I'd like to thank the county attorney's office for helping us through that as well. Periodic evaluation is just good economic development practice, and it's consistent with your economic development strategic action plan that you passed in January. Goal 3 of that plan calls to enhance county resources by evaluating the existing programs and for implementing new programs. I'd like to start with just an overview of the program basics of your existing program. The grant is for job creation for new and expanding businesses within the county. It has a target industry eligibility, so business has to be a target industry to apply. It requires a minimum of 5 jobs being created by the businesses at 75% of the county average wage, which is currently $55,448. And grants are paid after the job creation. So it's a reimbursement after the jobs are created and they provide evidence to the county that those jobs are in place. The chart below shows how much grant per job is provided to the businesses, and it's incentivized by the job wage category. In other words, the higher the wage, the higher the grant that they're eligible for those jobs. Staff evaluated this program participation and performance over a 10-year period between 2016 and 2025. We utilized the county's controller approval and payment data to do that. And you'll see through the chart here below, 9 businesses were approved by the board. 2 received grant payments over that period. But those 2 businesses did not receive all of the grant that they were approved for. The data infers that the program is not meeting its intended potential. And it appears to be more programmatic issues after the grants are approved by the board. County staff and chamber staff received information from businesses that cited there are program barriers for participation and successful utilization of this program. The businesses indicated weak financial return on investment, and that's really essentially because it takes too long to realize the grant funding. The grant funds are dispersed as 1/3 payments over a 3-year period. So in the example below, a $5,000 grant, say for a $70,000 job that's created in the county, the business would receive $1,666 each year. The businesses indicate the program is time-consuming, so there's a cost-benefit consideration to it. It requires much time, technical assistance throughout the process from application, implementation, and reporting. The businesses are required to submit quarterly reports and an annual grant request, so that's 7 reports annually. And I'll just say business investment in capital and labor is not a really quarterly decision. That's more of a long-term decision for businesses. The program agreement they mention is confusing and compliance heavy. There are multiple hiring phases, commencement dates, and compliance dates. And the current agreement has complex grant calculations, which are the quarterly aggregate figures. And the agreement for this program can extend out for more than 6 years, which would require 29 reports to the Indian River County.
Mhm.
3 final thoughts as you consider this authorization. 3 final thoughts for the Indian River County Jobs Grant Program as an economic development incentive. This 10-year program review revealed underperformance, programmatic flaws after the approvals. I would just say it's good to have this incentive, but it's better to know that it's being effectively used by the businesses. Economic development programs in general should be really attractive to those that want to apply or come and invest in your community. It should be an inducement for that private investment and providing sufficient return on investment for them. These programs should not be too complex for business participation and compliance. So you could imagine this program with quarterly reports for a small business, it can be challenging. And lastly, effective economic development incentives are performance-based. So staff will maintain the standard of a grant reimbursement after job creation, but we would also have reasonable compliance and reporting to ensure that the representations they made to all of you upon application they follow through with. With that, the next steps for this, before we came to you, we did go to the Economic Development Council. They made their recommendation to this body to authorize staff to revise the local jobs grant program on January 20th. Today, we're requesting your authorization. If you do provide that authorization, planning and development staff will work with the county attorney with revisions to the program and agreement. We will return to the Economic Development Council for further feedback and recommendation to this board. And then we'll bring all the program elements back to the commission for consideration and adoption. With that, staff would recommend authorization for revision of the Indian River County Local Jobs Grant Program and associated agreement for future consideration of the board. With that, staff would take any questions that you may have. And in addition, I believe Lance Lunsford is here as the EDC chair, if you have any questions for him.
Well, thank you, Doug, and Commissioners. I will just say from my perspective, spending some time with Doug, this is a natural progression, I think, in the direction that this county is going under the leadership of Mr. Tatanch, who obviously has a background in this. Doug is credited with a lot of things. I often joke that he brought SpaceX to Brevard County. That's a joke. You can laugh. But Doug, with the authorization that I presume will happen today, a lot of expectations and a lot of demands to be expected from us towards you, so brace yourself. Commissioners.
I just have one question. With regard to the salary slide, I think it was 55,000, and then it said 75% of that having to do with the salaries for jobs. Is that what it is currently, or is that a suggested?
So Commissioner Moss, the $55,000 figure, that is the current average wage for Indian River County.
I think like 75% of that sounds kind of low. You're talking about they'll call it the Alice population.
Yeah.
You know, and they can't afford to live here, and so
Right.
that's, it's problematic.
So
to say
that's
the least.
one area that we'll probably review, that'll be brought up with the Economic Development Council. One comment that I had heard already from the Economic Development Council is that at some point in time during the recession, they had lowered that standard to 75% of the average wage, just to help bring more jobs into the county.
All right, so you're going to review that?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, sounds.
Thank you, Commissioner Moss.
Widen the threshold for the granting
Commissioners,
opportunity.
any further comments for Doug? Pressure's on, Doug. This would require a motion, Commissioner.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Fletcher and a second by Commissioner Vice Chair Moss. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioners, now 11:02. We will be taking a 6-minute recess, and we will re-adjourn at 11:08.
Thank you, Doug.
Pressure's on. Welcome back and good afternoon. It is 11:08 on the 24th of February. The year is 2026, and we resume the Board of County Commission meetings. Fellow commissioners, up next is Utility Services. I see our Director, Sean Liskey, present. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Lohr, Commissioners. Sean Liskey, Director of the Department of Utility Services. With me is Howard Richards, our Capital Projects Manager. We've got an item here today where we are going to be asking to reappropriate some capital improvement element funds associated with a couple of projects at our Gifford Water Reclamation Facility. We had started a project earlier this year under operational funding to replace or actually do what we call a cure-in-place pipeline repair for a pipeline. And if we can pull it up real quick, I just thought I'd give you a quick idea of what we're talking about. Maybe. So we have our Gifford Water Reclamation Facility, and we have a drain line here that kind of captures a lot of the associated waste from the facility itself. And that line here that kind of runs along this roadway, internal roadway, was found to be leaking. And we were going to be doing operational repair to do just basically some repair work on that line. When they came in to do, when the contractor came in to do an evaluation of that, they found that the line was actually more damaged than we had originally thought. And there was actually a structural, when you do these CIPP and these other kind of repair works, you need a really good structural component of that pipe. The pipe was actually completely eroded away at the top, so there was no structural element left of the pipeline. And so we are having to go back and actually do a full replacement of that line. And what we are asking for is, we had another project at Gifford that, because of long lead times, is going to have to be deferred. So we're asking to kind of replace that project with this project, defer the original project, which was associated with some filters. We would defer that till next year, and when we use the funding for that project to help fund this project in the amount of $532,875 to basically do the line replacement. Originally, we had thought it was only going to be around, what was about $57,000, I think, was the original operational cost. But because of the integrity of the pipe being compromised, we have had to now do a full line replacement. So we are, what we are asking, and we are recommending the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners approve the Department of Utility Services to undertake the process waste drain line replacement at the Headworks project at Gifford Water Reclamation Facility outside of the proposed capital improvement element for an estimated cost of $532,875. And I would be happy
Thank you,
to
John.
answer any
Thank you,
questions.
Howard. Any questions for Sean or Howard, commissioners? Cost of doing business running a county, gentlemen.
Motion to approve staff.
We have a motion by Commissioner Erman and a second by Commissioner Flesher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, and the motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Get to work. Commissioners, next item is a presentation by the Solid Waste Disposal District. Before you, you see our Director, Himanshu Mehta. For some reason, he looks kind of like a recycling bin.
Vegetative waste.
He's vegetative waste.
Good morning, Commissioners. Himanshu Mehta, Managing Director of the Solid Waste Disposal District. And
One whole yard.
AKA Mr. Yard Waste today. Happy to be here with you this morning. I'm certainly proud of our yard waste cart colors. A quick story on that. Originally, it was supposed to be all orange, but staff kind of intervened, and we decided to go with the brown, like a tree trunk, and then the orange top, more of a fall feel and more of a nod to citrus industry in Indian River County. So I think people are starting to like it.
Thank you.
So good morning. We're here to talk about the Second Amendment to the Solid Waste and Recyclables Collection Service franchise. And just as a background, this agreement was approved back in July of 2024. All of you were part of that exciting process that led to the approval of that. It was a 2-year effort to get there. in December of 17 of 2024. So even the franchise wasn't even activated yet. It wasn't effective until October 1 of 2025. The board approved a first amendment to the agreement, and it provided some reductions for fees for residential, multifamily, and commercial customers. So we were actually, before even the agreement started, we started looking at certain things and how we can reduce and improve certain things. I think we also provided exemptions there for Blue Cypress and things like that. So that was the First Amendment before even the agreement started. And then in June, 2025, around, I think when WM started sending postcards to everybody and said, hey, we got carts coming. We had a lot of HOA communities come to us. And so that was even, again, prior to the franchise agreement starting in October of 2025. We listened to the input from these communities. We came to the commission, and in June 17, 2025, the board approved staff recommendations for a number of things. One was the yard waste exemptions for HOA communities, and also an earlier cart swap. Originally, we envisioned that we would get all these carts out, people would try them for 90 days, and then January 2nd, 2026, they could call in and ask for a different size cart. But again, we heard from a lot of residents they weren't happy, with some of these big carts. They had small ones to begin with, and so again, we listened to the public and what their concerns were, and again, thanks to the board, we worked with WM to initiate early cart exchanges. And then I think, and I'll mention a little bit later about those cart swaps. We did come late last year, December 2025, to memorialize some additional changes via a Second Amendment. And but at the time, I think at the discussion we had related to commercial charges, supplemental fees, and also yard waste exemption program. And board asked us to basically continue further negotiations with WM, and here we are today to memorialize those. So today's purpose is, again, to provide the updated Second Amendment. Just briefly go over the yard waste exemption, the standardized carts and cart swaps, commercial and supplemental fees, and then we do have some exhibits that we have in the original agreement that we're updating. The yard waste exemption process, currently the final numbers, I think the agenda had some average numbers. This week, prior to this meeting, we basically fine-tuned our list with WM. We have about 39 communities in unincorporated Indian River County that are actively participating in the yard waste exemption process. That's about 3,831 residents, if you will, when you count those individual communities. And so we were able to, prior to delivery of the yard waste carts for, I think, majority of them, WM was able to not even deliver them the yard waste carts. So we worked out the process, they submitted the forms, and we got that in place. What we did originally in that exemption process was, again, it was a quick decision to grant them the exemptions. We came up with an agreement, and we went forward. One of the things that we originally had in the exemption is that it was going to be a 5-year to potentially 10-year exemption. It was a one-time form, and nobody could sort of opt back in. And after the other aspect of that is that these communities are paying for a service and they're not utilizing it. That's their choice. However, we're collecting the money and paying WM. So originally, in that first exemption process, we had asked WM for some concessions or benefits for other folks outside of those communities. And after further discussions with WM and our county attorney's guidance, one of the things we recognized is that HOAs and POAs and COAs, they certainly have their rights and responsibilities to govern their communities. However, because of this universal waste collection process administered through the non-ad valorem process through the tax bill, we're collecting individual fees and assessment from individual residents. And the benefit is really for them. And it's their HOAs that are making the decisions that they don't want this service in their community. That's their right. But individual benefits and what they're paying for, we feel still need to be protected. And so what we did is we've kind of separated out. We've basically left the benefit to those individual residents. This new yard waste exemption process is going to be an annual process with the HOA boards of these communities. It should be I'll reach out to them annually prior to July 31st. We'll get them to resubmit the form that their community still wants to continue to be exempt. At the same time, starting this next fiscal year, residents in those communities, if they want a yard waste cart, they will call WM directly, and WM will deliver a yard waste cart and provide weekly service to them. And we feel that that's been a good compromise. That benefit remains with those residents that are paying for it. If they want to opt back in, they'll have the right to do that. The HOAs can continue to ask for an exemption for their whole community. And it keeps the benefit, again, within the community. So we have not asked for any sort of outside relief out of those communities. Ms. Schuler, if there's anything to add, please.
I don't. I think you described it well.
Okay. All right.
I appreciate it.
That's the yard waste process. I don't know if you want me to pause here, if you have any questions on that at all, or I'll just continue on with the presentation. The next item on the update in the Second Amendment is just to, we implemented this. Again, we came back to the board earlier in the year, where we authorized WM to start doing cart swaps as of October 1. They've done over 6,000 exchanges, so, basically the standard 65-gallon recycling cart that we provided, residents either exchanged that for a smaller one, a 35-gallon cart, or they could have gone to a larger 95-gallon cart. Same thing occurred with the trash cart. We provided a standard 95-gallon cart, and residents had the option of going smaller to 65 or 35. And about so far, I think 70, 80 carts a day is what's going on in terms of cart swaps. So folks can still call in 772-569-1776. Call WM, and if they have a cart size that's too big or too small related to recycling and trash, they can still make those changes. Commercial and supplemental fees. I think we had a pretty good discussion last time, but for the record, I'll just quickly go over this. We do recognize that commercial rates did increase in this new contract by 93% from the previous contract. Originally, if you look at the fee for per cubic yard, it was $5.58 per cubic yard in September of 2025. That rate per cubic yard with the new contract went up to $10.79. What I'd like to point out, though, is if we go back 10 years prior to that, it was about an 18% increase over a 10-year mark. So we had a very good contract that controlled those rate increases. They only saw about an 18% increase over a 10-year period. So we know that there was a market correction. The other competitors also had comparable prices with that, and I think I have a table that'll show you that. Other factors, I think, were certainly COVID and labor and equipment costs that factored into the increase. One of the new things that we did not have in the previous contract that did result in increases is a provision for supplemental fees that were added to the contract. We call them a la carte services, such as opening and closing gates and rolling out and returning dumpsters. These were not in the old franchise agreement. And they were providing that service, and it was part of the rate. However, we were hoping that by separating these services out, that we could keep our rates from increases, as high. But unfortunately, the market adjustment was there, and at the same time, you had these supplemental fees. And so it did result in dramatic increases to multifamily and commercial businesses. A lot of them reached out to, I think, commissioners individually. And we quickly, got to the table with WM. The county administrator had a meeting with WM to really kind of look at what could be done. And overall, these changes actually have been implemented already, and this Second Amendment is just to codify it. But one of the things is originally in the agreement, we had a recycling roll-off fee that WM could charge for. That for multifamilies, that has been removed to zero now. And opening and closing doors and gates has been changed from like a per month cost to, or from a per event cost actually to a per month cost, which is a substantial reduction. And they've also capped the total amount of cost that they could charge a community if they have like 5 or more gates in a particular multifamily area. The other thing in meeting with the county administrator was key is WM is basically obtaining written approval for these extra services from these communities. If they don't get a written approval, then they actually need to go back all the way to October 1 and provide a credit for those communities. So if the community decides, you know what, you never obtained approval for me about opening and closing gates, and going forward, I don't want you to open and close my gates, I'll have somebody open, the gates for me, then they can actually go back and give them the credit for that. And again, these reductions and reduction in fees were implemented back in November of 2025. Just a lot of information here, but the main thing is to show originally the recycling rate was $20 for rolling out. Then we reduced it in the First Amendment 10. Now it's down to 0. The rollout fee originally was $75. It was reduced to $40 in the First Amendment, so no change there. Opening, closing, doors and gates, it was $75 originally in the agreement, reduced to $40 per event in the First Amendment, and now it's due $40 per month. So again, these we have seen, and WM is here, Debbie Perez has been working with communities one by one and working with them to make changes that fit their community. And yes, the costs are higher than they were in September. However, they are able to take advantage of these and see what works for their community to try to get some reductions. Just as I mentioned earlier, WM 93% increase. Their old rate was at 18%. I mentioned earlier, and then this is how the other competitors were: 2 higher, 2 lower than WM. And again, same table that we have for commercial as we had up there for multifamily. Update on the exhibits. We're basically, we've had all these updates in Amendment 1 and Amendment 2. We just have an updated Exhibit 1. It's a consolidated rate sheet, so we could, if anybody asked for the rate sheet for the contract, it would have everything updated and intact. Same thing with Exhibit 8. This is providing government buildings and facilities recycling services that WM provides. We originally, I think in the previous contract, they were 64-gallon carts. We've updated the list to reflect 95-gallon carts is what all of these locations have now. Sue and Jill are out there. They actively go out to government buildings, work with the fire stations and other folks and whatnot to audit kind of what's going on, what do they need, what can be done for improving recycling at our facilities, and they're making sure the list is accurate and updated and reflects what we're paying WM. So we've decided to do, I think, 2 audits a year to make sure that our government services, that we're setting the example. We're leading by example on how to recycle in the community. So with that, happy to answer any questions. Staff does recommend the board approve the Second Amendment to the Solid Waste and Recycling Collection Franchise Agreement between SWIT and WM and authorize the chairman to execute the agreement.
Thank you, Himachi. Commissioners, we've all been through this together. We understand the task that Himachi and his team have faced. It's not lost on us that over 220,000 carts were exchanged in the last 6, 7, 8 months, which is truly a remarkable feat by your team. For that, we do appreciate. Commissioners, any comments?
I'm glad Sue got it worked out because I don't want to relive the greatest time of my life. It's last
Is that in the form of a motion?
But it needs a motion, so, yeah, sure. So, motion approved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fletcher. We have a second by Commissioner Erman. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Thank you so much, Deb, Sue, Himachi, Sean.
Thank you.
The motion, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Himachi, just be careful as you're meandering about, dressed in this attire.
Okay.
Start throwing braces at you.
Okay, all right. I'll be careful. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner, this brings us to public comment on any non-agenda related matters. Hearing none and seeing none, It is now 11:47. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.